It's gotta be me 'cause I'm the best, outshining all the rest.
Good afternoon from Nikki and from me. We have a lot of terrain to cover today, so I'm going to plunge right in, if I may, with a little bit of permission from my darling Mix. Mwah! Evan Bell says, Lady C, the Sunday Times ran almost a whole page on how Jemima Khan has distanced herself from the Crown's portrayal of Diana. What do you make of it all? Well, to those of you who do not know, Jemima Khan's mother is Lady Annabel Goldsmith, formerly Lady Annabel Burley, formerly Lady Annabel Stewart. The famous nightclub was named after her. She was married to Mark Burley, then she was married to Jimmy Goldsmith after becoming his mistress and having 3 children for him while he was married to his second wife. And Jemima Khan is their only daughter, and she was a great friend of the Princess of Wales. She was married to Imran Khan, the present Prime Minister of Pakistan, and a distant cousin of Hasnat Khan, with whom Diana was in love and whom she hoped to marry. But the Khan family was not in favour of the marriage. And that was the end of that. But they were great friends. She recently had an affair with Peter Morgan, who is the creator of the Crown. She was, shall we say, the interregnum between his romance with Madame Anderson and Madame Anderson, who played Mrs. Thatcher in The Crown. And she was supposed to be helping with the script and the characterization of Diana. Well, they busted up in February, and she recently issued a statement claiming that she wanted to have nothing to do with the characterization of Diana, with which she did not agree, and she wanted no credit for the work she had done. The Crown has issued another statement saying that she had no contract and that basically she was never going to get a credit, is what they're saying. All very petty, and however, it's interesting because what would Jemima's reaction have been had she still been with Peter Morgan? That's the question I would like to ask. I don't know the answer. Maybe she doesn't know the answer. But whatever, she's putting quite a lot of distance between herself and the characterization. And so it's going to be interesting to see what the characterization is. Because the truth is, I would imagine that if it was anything but completely anodyne and actually flattering, that she and her mother especially, who fancies herself as possibly being Diana's stepmother in quotes, because there have always been rumours that Jimmy Goldsmith was not Lord Spencer, that Diana was not Lord Spencer's daughter, but that she was Jimmy Goldsmith's daughter, because her mother had an affair with Jimmy Goldsmith. And people comment upon the resemblance between Diana and Jemima Khan. I think resemblances are notoriously unreliable, because my son Misha and my niece Gabriella look very much alike, and there's no genetic link. I just say that for what it's worth. It will be interesting to see what the characterization is. I suspect it's going to be too near to the truth for Jemima's comfort, because the last characterization of Diana, although extremely trashing of the royal family, was not exactly adulatory of Diana either. But you know, if you lie down with dogs, don't be surprised when you get up with fleas. And Jemima Khan has a history of lying down with very interesting men. Hugh Grant, Russell Brand. You can say she certainly likes them off the beaten track and rather colourful. Lounge 7296 says, a very good day to you, dear Lady Colin Campbell, and to Mickey. Mickey, somebody sends to say hello to you, baby girl. Yes, they do. Breaking news here in Australia this morning is that... Sorry. Is that Joe Biden passed wind in a long and lengthy way in front of Camilla and did not even excuse himself. Apparently, Camilla was quite upset and uncomfortable when he released his gaseous anomaly. What words of etiquette and advice would you offer in regard to such a vulgar display of flatulence? Love as always from Brian and Trav from Perth, Western Australia. Hello, Trav and Brian. Yes, it's been all over the English papers as well. Evidently, Camilla has been regaling everybody with a symphony that Le Petoman, otherwise known as President Biden, unleashed upon them in her presence. Well, I mean, the guy is batting 80, so he's not young. Maybe his muscles aren't all they ought to be anymore. Maybe he didn't even realise, because if he's a little bit deaf, he might not have realised. He might have thought he was sending silent poopsie whoopsies across the room. When in fact, the orchestra was in full flow. It's something that evidently goes along with the territory of certain people of a certain age. And, well, he could have preserved his dignity by saying, oh, sorry about that, you know. The orchestra's tuning up early. Or some such ridiculous nonsense. But I suppose he thought he'd just brazen it out. You can sympathise with him. I certainly do. But it is funny. And it certainly entertained everybody here. We all think it's a hoot, an absolute hoot. And on that note, I will say, let me get off the subject right now. Oh, gosh. Avak Sarhaku, if that's how it's pronounced, a very exotic name. I don't have any idea how it's pronounced, and I'm sorry if I have mispronounced it. Lady C, isn't it great that our Lieutenant Governor of Virginia is of Jamaican descent? Sister! She came to the US at 6, if I'm not mistaken, served in our armed forces. Well done. Harry's wife needs to stop playing the victim stroke race card. And Kathleen Webb says on the same subject, I am a conservative libertarian. If Meghan is seen on CSPAN lobbying Congress using her title, I know we will hear the voices of the American people en masse. If she wants to look like a fool using her given name, I'll be the first one in front of my TV to watch for amusement. Lady C, I'm in Virginia and wanted you to know a Jamaican-born Black Republican female made history in our state. She is a veteran, was still a Jamaican when she joined the US Marines, and as a legal immigrant became a citizen of the US. Isn't it wonderful? And what I find really funny is that she has been accused by certain segments of the popular press of being a white imperialist. Her name is Winsome Sears, and she is 57 years old. She was born in Kingston, Jamaica. She accompanied her parents to the Bronx in New York when she was 6. I think her father arrived with $1.75 in his pocket and worked very hard. There are a whole load of Jamaicans who work very hard. I did up this castle primarily with Jamaicans because nobody is a better worker than a Jamaican when they want to work. Of course, when they don't want to work, that's a horse of a different colour altogether. But we're not going to go there. Before going into politics, she ran a homeless shelter. She was a member of Virginia's House of Delegates from 2002 to 2004. And she said, when I joined the Marine Corps, I was still a Jamaican, but this country has done so much for me, I was willing to die for this country. Aren't those noble sentiments? Isn't it wonderful that somebody can come from so little and achieve so much and have such a noble and positive attitude? And isn't it ludicrous that she has been accused of being a white imperialist? Because she understands that black people no longer need a free pass. They need an opportunity, as do white people and all other people. We all need opportunities in life. We don't need to be spoon-fed and infantilized. To infantilize people is to give them when they should achieve, and so they get for nothing. I'm not saying that you shouldn't give people who are needy, but people who are lazy, people who want to be parasitic, who want to leech off society, no, they should contribute. We all need to contribute. And I think it's wonderful. Winsome Sears, the white imperialist. You couldn't make it up. We really do live in a mad world. Maria Rose says, I'm as much offended by the fact that Meghan seemingly lies to Congress about her childhood as I am about the fact that she is using her titles. This, of course, refers to the letter that Meghan wrote to Pelosi and Schumer, in which poor Meghan was deprived, working, child labour. Mickey, come and help Matty, to come and console Matty. Matty's grief-stricken for Megsy baby. Megsy baby was child labour. She was busy working at 13. She had to work her way through school and university. Poor Megsy baby. She was born into poverty. Her father was only on $200,000 a year. And he only won $750,000 in the lottery to add to the $200,000 a year that he was on. Such poverty. Rather like Virginia Giuffre's definition of slavery. Oh, I was only given $15,000 for sleeping with somebody. I've been heavily trafficked. Very heavily trafficked. I'm a victim. These people, what planet are they on? I can well see why you are offended, Maria Rose, by the lies. Yes, it is very offensive that a girl who was given such privileges and such a cushy existence would erase it and claim victimhood. Of course, she has no real experience of victimhood, so she wouldn't know that the first thing a victim does is dust herself off, or himself, it's a man, and achieve. Because the one thing a victim doesn't want to do, a genuine victim, is be trapped in victimhood. Victimhood is for the spoiled, entitled, self-indulgent phonies who wish to play the cards that will hopefully get them where they want to go. So, yes, Megsy baby was a great victim. Poor darling. Mickey, what's Mummy going to do? Sorry, you have to. Sorry. Maura Scott says, Dear Lady C, thank you for your enlightening videos. As always, your videos are most informative. Here is my question. I wonder, does Meghan have real contempt for protocol when it comes to tossing her title around when it suits her? Or is she just completely ignorant as to how British royal titles actually work? I ask this as she seems to have had a track record, if you will, of completely ignoring royal protocol, then complaining when she is called out for violating it. Her complete inability to take responsibility is breathtaking. Of course, we all make mistakes. That's what makes us human. However, is it really, big block capitals, a burden for someone to admit that they erred? That said, I have the greatest, big block capitals, respect for anyone who has made a gaffe but who can also admit to that fact. However, with regard to Meghan Markle, some say she didn't want to be told what to do or how to act, but I believe it goes much deeper. She doesn't understand and doesn't want to understand. It has become blatantly clear that she definitely has no desire to learn. That is why, in my opinion, she decided to bolt from the UK and will not return. These are just my observations, and do I agree? Well, she touches upon many points, and I sort of agree. Meghan does have absolute contempt for protocol. Meghan has absolute contempt for anything that doesn't suit her. You know, I have been speaking to professionals about Meghan for some time now. And they have recently switched their diagnosis from that Meghan is primarily a narcissist with antisocial traits and Machiavellian to that Meghan is primarily a sociopathic personality. She has primarily an antisocial personality with narcissistic traits and Machiavellianism. So the balance is altered, which means that she has even fewer scruples than anybody thought she did. She also loves creating havoc and mischief. This is something that goes along with being an antisocial personality. They can't resist kicking over the traces. There's a rule, they've got to bend it or break it. There's a convention, they've got to defy it. There's sand, they've got to kick it in your face. That's what antisocial personalities do. That's what Meghan does, and it is the systematic abuse of protocol and of tradition and of any rule that she wants to defy that has led to the conclusion that she is actually primarily an antisocial personality with narcissistic attributes, as opposed to a narcissist with antisocial personality attributes. Either way, it means she's bad news. On some level, it's quite possible that she can't learn. But on another level, it's obvious that she was astute enough to spot what could get her to the position that she is now in, and abided by the rules, and faked it, so to speak. You know, Meghan was very, if you look at, for instance, the Larry King interview, she's on the ball, she's right there on the mark, she's apparently cooperative, she's right there with him the whole time. Look at me, I'm so nice, I'm bright, I'm charming, I'm stunning, I'm really cooperative, I know the game and I'm gonna play by the rules. So, does that suggest an inability to learn? If you knew how to play by the rules, to wangle your way to the top, you don't have a problem with discerning what the rules are and abiding by them when it suits you. Therefore, I do not think, with due respect, that she doesn't understand and doesn't want to understand. I think she's reached the stage of, I'm far too big for all these little petty little rules and these petty little people, and I'm just free now to indulge myself and do what I want. And she does. She now shows absolute contempt for everyone and everything with which she is not in, shall we say, sympathy, or more to the point, which is not in sympathy with her desires. People like her cannot admit to making mistakes unless it suits them. If it's a tactical advantage to be obtained, they will do it. I've told my children all their life, I said, a really important thing in life is if you're wrong, throw up your hands immediately and say, I'm in the wrong. If you're right, defend yourself to the death if necessary. But if you're wrong, throw up your hands immediately. Don't try to brazen shout. It is the mark of a low and amoral creature, or a coward, or a worm. It's also the mark of people who have disordered personalities. P.S. says, interestingly, Ken Sunshine worked in New York City for Mayor Dinkins and, drumroll, Bill de Blasio. That explains de Blasio being pressured into receiving her. Then he worked as a consultant to Cuomo, whose lieutenant governor, now governor, also received her. He was also the publicist for Harvey Weinstein, friend of all Democrats. Maybe Sunshine is connecting her because his firm is constantly mentioned in connection with Meghan Markle, and it doesn't look like they are doing a good job with her. If she is finally successful with something, his firm looks better, even though they have gotten a ton of free publicity for repping her. What do I think? I think you're onto something. I think the people who employ Sunshine Sachs know that Sunshine Sachs are doing a sterling job in representing Meghan and Harry. They are achieving their objective and they are fulfilling their brief. A minimum of 3 newspaper stories, or media stories, I suppose you have to say nowadays, per week, keeping them in the news at all times. They are doing it very successfully. The fact that Sunshine Sachs has poor tools with which to work is not perceived as a failing on Sunshine Sachs's behalf by people who would be hiring them to represent them. They can see that Sunshine Sachs is doing a brilliant job of representing Harry and Meghan. If you're representing a turkey that wishes to present itself as a swan, and everybody can see that it's a turkey and it goes gobble, 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 is the representative to blame for people knowing that the turkey is a turkey? I don't think so. And yes, you're right. In the meantime, Sunshine Sachs is getting tremendous publicity for representing Meghan and Harry. For them, it is a win-win situation. Every time she fails, every time he fails, they fail. Harry and Meghan fail, not Sunshine Sachs. Sunshine Sachs is not the one who plunged the knife into his grandmother or into her grandmother-in-law. Meghan and Harry plunged the knife in. Sunshine Sachs may have assisted in making Prince Philip's last days a misery, but they were fulfilling their brief they were acquitting themselves as true professionals do, which is to fulfill their brief and earn their money. Meghan and Harry are turkeys. Everybody knows it. Everybody can see it, except those dumbos who don't have a brain in their head. It's a win-win situation, as I said, for Sunshine Sachs. Alexis Keary says, Lady C, what do you think of Dimwit and his evil fairy queen planning on going on a royal tour to Australia and Japan? There are none so blind as those who will not see. Well, it's been done before. The Duke and Duchess of Windsor made complete asses of themselves in 1937 when they went on a tour of Nazi Germany, inspecting housing for the working classes. And it has to be said, in 1937, the Nazi government in Germany had substantially improved the lot of the working classes and improved their housing conditions. It didn't alter the fact that it was a suicidal move. Now, of course, Japan and Australia are not unpopular countries. They don't have unpopular policies. However, are Harry and Meghan popular in Australia? The Australians, insofar as I can gather, absolutely loathe Meghan and Harry. I mean, Harry and Meghan are the national joke of Australia, insofar as I can tell. I mean, their names are mentioned and they are roundly mocked, and they're going to go on a tour. Japan might be slightly more receptive to their presence because Japan has a great deal of reverence for its imperial family and for royalty generally. Let's see how they cock that up, because I'd be very surprised if they don't. Because turkeys don't glide on the surface of swans, like swans on the surface of a lake. They don't do it. We're not speaking about Meghan being Odette or Odile in Swan Lake. We're speaking about Meghan being a turkey and Harry being a turkey too. They look it, they act it, they sound it. I'm sure they taste like it. Jane T says, Lady C, love your videos. Isn't it interesting that Megxie can be aggressive and have the know-how to get private phone numbers of senators, but didn't know how to contact a doctor for her supposedly past suicidal thoughts and depression? Well, let me knock that one on the head right there. Had Meghan been genuinely depressed, she would not have behaved the way she did. Had she been genuinely suicidal, she would not have behaved the way she did. You only need to see her performance at the Royal Albert Hall that evening to know that everything she said was totally unbelievable, and only an imbecile would believe any of it. It achieved the objective, which was to get poor dimwit Harry, Earl of Dumbarton. Dumb is the operative word. To be so worried that, what did he do? he had to move her to a state where there's community property and where in the event of a divorce she'll be able to clean him out. Gosh, you talk about dumb, crikey. The whole thing is farcical, but this is educational. It is all educational because we are looking at a tableau vivant in real time. And the train is hurtling, and at some point it's going to come off the tracks. And in the meantime, it's giving a very bumpy ride. And 1 minute, the sparks fly to the left, the next they fly to the right. Always with Sunshine Sachs, shining loads of sun on those sacks of dross. But Meghan has achieved her objective. She is in Hollywood, where she can fulfill her dreams. You know, what is really interesting is that one of the medical people to whom I have been speaking is of the opinion that Meghan shares many characteristics with Adolf Hitler. Not that she's murderous, but that she is delusional, that she has very disrespectful of boundaries, overconfident, and that she is a demagogue who uses her intense and very convincing at times personality to gather support as and where she wants to achieve it. Where Meghan is not a Hitler, and I would say obviously there are no parallels in terms of her prejudice. She's not prejudiced against the Jews. She married a Jew. She would appear to be prejudiced against men, and she would appear to be prejudiced against white people, and she would appear to be prejudiced against middle-aged white people, because she phoned up, if I'm not mistaken, the BBC and told them she didn't want them reviewing the Oprah interview with any white middle-aged men. And her rhetoric is very divisive, and it's very pro-black, which to the disadvantage of whites. So it's quite interesting that they are both mischief makers in sociological terms. But where there are real parallels is the total contempt for established boundaries and the messianic belief that they are so special that they have the means and the desire and the mission to change the world for the better. Hitler thought he would change the world for the better by eliminating the Jews. I mean, that's madness. Yes, it's also evil, but it's madness. Meghan, she's changing the world by eliminating freedom of speech. She's going to change the world by eliminating any disagreement with her. I have been asked to address the issue that Meghan and Harry have been trying to shut down YouTube channels and various other entities, Twitter, where people disagree with them. That's very Adolf Hitler. Make no mistake about it. That is what Adolf Hitler did. Anybody who disagreed with him needed to be shut down. Do you see why it is so important to have differing viewpoints expressed? Because when you shut down everybody who disagrees with you, that is a true dictatorship. That is totalitarianism in action. And Harry, as we know, thinks that freedom of speech is bonkers. He said it. He thinks the First Amendment is bonkers. It's not only freedom of speech that's bonkers, it's freedom to congregate, freedom to worship, freedom to express differing views. He thinks those are all madness. So does she. I do not think that she is murderous. At least there's no evidence to suggest that she is. And therefore, in the absence of evidence, you have to conclude that she is not. But there is certainly a lot of evidence to suggest that both of them, not only her, that he as well, are totalitarians who want their brand of orthodoxy to be the only brand available for anybody to listen to. And if you do not agree with them, you are a hate figure. They are accusing people, evidently, who express differing views as being hateful. No. Just because people don't agree with me doesn't mean that they hate me. They may hate what I say, but hate me? That's a little bit of a stretch. Lisa Rodriguez says, well, goodness, as you can see by my photo, I am a woman of colour. She certainly is. I'm American and passionately pro-black as someone who has truly experienced racism through the decades, starting from my childhood. I'm also an avid lover of European history, particularly the Tudor period. Very interesting. I was 10 on July the 29th, 1981, and watched the wedding of Charles and Anne, she doesn't say it, but that's what it was, with joy and fascination. Years later, I watched my favourite young royal marry an American person of colour and was overjoyed. However, over the last several months, I've had to come to the sad realisation that my fave ginger prince has indeed been hoodwinked by an overambitious, insincere opportunist who only deals with people who are of use to her and her self-centered ambitions. It infuriates me that no person of colour can come out against her without being seen as an Uncle Tom, which I definitely am not. It's a shame that non-people of colour are automatically assumed to be racist if they speak against her. She played her cards like a pro with her use of the race card. She certainly did. As someone who has actually experienced racism, her games are a slap in the face, and her claims serve to trivialize the trauma of those who have been discriminated against for the colour of their skin. I couldn't agree with you more, Lisa Rodriguez. You have said everything I have been saying for now years. She has hijacked the colour question in the most destructive and mischievous way. You know, one of the reasons why Hitler didn't prevail was his stupid Nuremberg race laws, because ultimately they were really stupid. One of the reasons why Meghan will not prevail is because of her stupid racism, because she is a racist and she's constantly playing the race card. But she's not a true racist. She's an opportunistic racist. When it suits her, she's white. When it suits her, she's brown. When it suits her, she's black. Well, you can't be all three at the same time and sincere. I think she is a total disgrace. That's my opinion. I don't understand how people can't see through her for the total pastiche that she is. And she is dangerous. You know, people who play race cards ultimately cause huge problems. And again, I come back to the likening of Meghan to Adolf Hitler. He played the race card, and she is playing the race card as well. And they are doing it both destructively. He was unnecessarily destructive. And remember, he also thought he was doing something good. Germany was going to be the bulwark against Soviet communism, which without Germany there to protect Europe would spread to the rest of Europe, as indeed it did throughout much of Europe at the end of the Second World War. Where will it all end with Meghan? Well, she's not in a position of power. And I don't know that she will ever be in a position of power. I sincerely hope she won't. Otherwise, she will turn out to be malignant. I'm not saying she will be as malignant as Adolf Hitler, but she will be malignant. All that nonsense about compassion, one act of compassion at a time, as she steps over the living bodies of people she has trampled on her way to the top. I think it's disgusting. And she cheapens the experience of people who have genuinely suffered from prejudice. Susan Blake says, question, dear Lady C, love your commentary and fabulousness. Thank you very much. My question, how can Meghan continue to blatantly flout the Queen's edict that she and Harry are not to intervene in foreign national politics? She continues to do so here in the US by calling female senators on both sides of the aisle regarding family leave. Rumour has it that this lame attempt is supposed to be laying the groundwork for a run for the presidency. In my opinion, she doesn't have a cat's chance in hell of winning. But the fact that she's even entertaining the notion is totally out of pocket. Thank you, and what do you think? Well, I'll tell you what I think. I think that Kirsten Gillibrand is using Meghan Markle. Kirsten Gillibrand has ambitions to run for president, and it's one tart bigging up another so that they can go on the town and hopefully attract the right punters. That, in political terms, is what they're doing. Presumably, Meghan has already seen that if Kirsten Gillibrand can run for president, maybe she'll be vice president. And I'm sure she'll find some way of uh, convincing herself that she wouldn't be vice president for very long. Because she's a very lucky girl. She always gets what she wants. I'm speculating now, and I'm being slightly mischievous. But the fact of the matter is, they are using each other. And what can the Queen and the royal family do about it? Short of depriving Harry of his right to use his titles, nothing. Nothing. Meghan always manages to break the rules and stay just sufficiently on the side of right that you can't nail her. That is a real operator. That is like a mafia boss who knows that he can use everything against his opponents and stay out of prison. Usually, of course, people like that overplay their hand at some point. Will she? Let's see. But at this point, she hasn't broken the rules to such an extent that the royal family can be indubitably justified in stripping Harry of his titles. And they don't want to strip him of his titles. The whole concept of stripping a royal of his titles because he or his wife is doing something that the public doesn't like means that thereafter, if there's a precedent set, that thereafter everybody is at the mercy of the crowd and the mob baying and of any unpopular sentiment. So there are sound reasons for not stripping him of his titles. Also, he's not done anything so terrible, and so far, nor has she. She's doing everything she shouldn't, but just not badly enough. But let's see, people like that usually overplay their hands. We simply need to exercise patience and wait and see. And in the meantime, enjoy the show. Because it really is a show, you know. Miss Anne 290 says, another wonderful programme, Lady C. Thank you so much for letting us know that Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, is not a title, something I already suspected. Could Meghan Markle sign her name as Meghan Mountbatten Windsor as well? Or is that only for her children? Also, could you tell me what you think would be the correct stationery for them to use? From the office of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex sounds like something a corporation would send out for their new employees. If having their house address engraved as the heading is too plain, could they have the appropriate ducal coronet embossed at the top? Much love to Mickey. I live for the programmes where I can hear her gentle snores in the background. I think you might have heard them a bit earlier, but she's sort of no longer snoring. She's just right here, but not snoring. Meghan Markle is not Meghan Mountbatten Windsor. Harry, his surname is Windsor. He's a grandson of a monarch. Only great-grandchildren are Mountbatten Windsor. Grandchildren and children are Windsor. It's laid down very clearly in various forms from around the time of just before Prince Andrew was born. It's in my books. It's in, I think, The Queen's Marriage. It's in most likely Meghan and Harry. I don't really know, but it's definitely in The Queen's Marriage, because the issue of the name Mountbatten caused a huge problem in the Queen's marriage a few weeks after her accession to the throne, and it was really only resolved shortly before Prince Andrew's birth, and Prince Andrew was born in February 1960. So there was an 8-year period of wobbles, let's put it that way. Duchesses are not Christian name, husband's surname. You know, for instance, that ridiculous thing called Wikipedia has Margaret, Duchess of Argyll, as Margaret Campbell, Duchess of Argyll. She was never Margaret Campbell. She was Margaret, Duchess of Argyll, and signed herself Margaret Argyll. Meghan is not Meghan Windsor, Duchess of Sussex. She is the Duchess of Sussex. And her signature as a duchess who is not allowed to use the royal rank would be aristocratic, which would be Meghan Sussex. She can do the American thing, which my other stepmother-in-law, Matilda, Duchess of Argyll, used to do. She's always signed herself Matilda Mortimer Argyll. Meghan could quite correctly sign herself Meghan Markle Sussex. She cannot sign herself correctly Meghan Mountbatten Windsor, Meghan Windsor, but she can sign Meghan Sussex. Princesses normally sign just their Christian name. But her situation is anomalous. The notepaper, the only socially correct notepaper that she can or should be using, is as follows. She could have the ducal coronet and her initial M. It's a bit pretentious, but she could do it without any address at all. Then she needs her address. You know, for instance, the notepaper here is Castle Goring. Buckingham Palace, it's Buckingham Palace. Kensington Palace, it's Kensington Palace. Clarence House is Clarence House. It's not correct for notepaper to have from the office of such and such. It comes from a place. The office of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex is not a place. It is a notion. And notepaper is not notional. It indicates something. All these rules, all these protocols give messages. They indicate something. Meghan is yet again turning it all over on its head and making a complete nonsense of what should and would and ordinarily does make sense. But it doesn't make sense in her hands, because she's come up with a new form of sense. Alternative reality. It's a sign of serious personality and mental disorder. Alternative reality. But if you're clever enough and capable enough, it can work for a while. And on that note, I will say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and keep the questions coming in. Thank you very much. God bless. Bye-bye.